In 2007, 2008, I sat down to write a kind of epilogue to the Baltimore Waltz. And I went, okay, this is going to be an homage to Thornton Wilder. It's time. And I thought, I hope I still like the plays. Checked out the plays from the library, put it on my desk to reread it for the first time in 40 years, 50 years. Open up the book and my phone on the desk rings. I pick it up, strange man's voice.
Paula Vogel, this is Thornton Wilder. You don't know me from a hot rock. I am Thornton Wilder's nephew, but have the pleasure of being his literary executor and representing his intellectual property. And we're looking forward to doing a new edition for HarperCollins of a well-known play that I think you love. And I wonder whether you would be willing to write an introduction to it.
And I said, Mr. Wilder, I'm sitting here with the 3 short one-acts written by your uncle, about to write an homage to Long Christmas Dinner.
And she said, I would love to write the introduction to the Skin of Our Teeth.
That synchronicity, how do you describe that?
Our Town.
Happy Journey.
The Bridge of St. Louis Ray.
Pulling Car Hiawatha.
Skin of Our Teeth.
Our Town and Skin of Our Teeth.
Skin of Our Teeth.
The Long Christmas Dinner.
And The Matchmaker.
We do have to talk about Our Town.
Now, there's some things you all know as well as I do, but you don't take them out often and look at them. We all know that something in the world's eternal. It ain't houses, it ain't names, it ain't earth, it ain't even the stars. Everybody knows in their bones that something in the world's eternal, and that something has to do with human beings.
The first 3 novels, The Kabbalah, The Bridge of St. Louis Ray, and The Woman of Andros, they're very much the work of an internationalist American, which is the way he's raised, and of course his studies and his experience in Rome in the early 20s at the American Academy.
When he was in his early 20s, he went out on a trip with his classmates to an archaeological dig, and they discovered 1,000-year-old Etruscan road. And at that moment, Thornton Wilder sort of saw how he was connected to those people who walked on that road 1,000 years from now. And there'd be people who walked on that road 1,000 years from then, and that the past was always a part of the present.
Thornton Wilder had a huge lightning strike when he published The Bridge of St. Louis Ray. We today don't realize what an extraordinary publishing success that was.
It starts with the story of the bridge collapsing.
It follows in 3 separate chapters the people who died on that bridge.
And then we start to find out who these 5 people are. And all these figures are all heading to the bridge that changes their destiny and their story.
There is a land of the living and a land of the dead, and the bridge is love.
We think of Wilder today as a playwright. Oh, and he also wrote novels. I think of him as a man who wrote a continuum of works. I'm interested in the ideas that run through all of them, however he cares to express them.
Turning to the theater, he had these cosmic instincts and broad thematic concerns, but he had to confine himself to the stage. So he was very aware that the theater, by definition, is a confined art form. And he calls attention to that fact.
Elmer, stop that automobile this minute! I don't go another step with anybody who says things like that. Arthur, get out of this car. Elmer, give him a $1 bill. He can go back to Newark by himself. I don't want him.
My first response to reading Happy Journey was, wow, Ma, Kirby reminds me a lot of my mom. What surprised me most about working on these plays is how well Wilder wrote his female characters. They are very nuanced. They have very rich interior lives, which is something that I don't see from many of his contemporaries. It's a delight to get to portray.
With Wilder, you can tell that he's thinking, okay, how do I exercise my muscles? I mean, when you read Hiawatha Pullman and then go forward into Happy Journey, you can see him talking to the writer in himself and challenging himself.
This is a Pullman car. Its name is Hiawatha, and on December 21st, it's on its way from New York to Chicago.
Pullman Car Hiawatha, it's a brilliant play. It's 24 pages, 28 characters, and a kaleidoscopic look at the universe.
I mean, hasn't everybody had that moment at the end of Pullman Car Hiawatha where you zoom out into outer space and you're like, oh my God, I am so small.
So Wilder, he's constantly reminding the audience of the limitations of the theatrical form. But you take, for example, The Long Christmas Dinner, he wants to talk about continuity. He doesn't want to talk about just one incident at one Christmas dinner. He has people come and go, and they leave, they die, new people arrive. So he tries to tell a story over time.
I feel that Thornton Wilder projects himself into the script as an observer. There's another person in that room at the dinner table, and it's the playwright, looking back and figuring out his own ancestry, that rich ancestry of the Wilders. So there's always a kind of invisible witnessing of the playwright's voice that's incredibly unique. I feel that in every play he writes.
This is the program for our town when it opened in Boston in January 1938. Our town opened in New York, and Thornton was with his sister Isabel. And in those days, there, of course, were a great many newspapers, and they had to get the review out into the early editions. There were many uneasy reviews about this rather odd play. But they get home, and the phone is ringing off the hook, because back in New York, there was a line at the ticket booth, and they brought the police in to control the line. So he had another extraordinary lightning success, this time as a playwright.
Every production I've seen of our town captures a different glimpse of what it means to be an American, of what it means to be human, of what it means to make sense of life.
The play is a series of moments, like a necklace of beads, and every bead is this moment, which is life passing. I worked on the 2017 production of Our Town that was trilingual. It was English, Spanish, and Haitian Creole, and the play has been translated and done in other countries, but it's such a uniquely American experience to live your life multilingually. And that speaks to the universality of the dramaturgy of the play.
I'll be eternally grateful to a writer who I think may have written the greatest play ever written by an American. That is Our Town by Thornton Wilder.
I first read The Skin of Our Teeth in graduate school, and I remember reading it and being like, whoa, this is a lot of play. This is a lot of play.
Skin of Our Teeth is another whack experimental play that I would, imagine was written this year.
This is a play about the fate of humanity. Wilder wrote the play in 1939, 1940, as the world was clearly descending into chaos.
And yet, in the midst of that, of being on the brink of doom, against all odds, you have this hope for life, hope for the human race to survive.
It's a play that appears to be prophetic, and it sort of feels prophetic right now.
I think he's the first American to really introduce a notion of non-Western time. where time is endless, where time comes back again and again, where time is in a pattern. Thornton Wilder says it's not an individual's time. It's a social community time. It's us as social beings, and it's endless.
Hitchcock wants to do Shadow of a Doubt, and he wants Wilder to write the script because Wilder had written Our Town and was the master of life in a small town, and this is about murder in a small town. So he did it, and he and Hitchcock had a marvelous time together doing this. And then after the war, there's this odd duck of a wonderful novel called The Ides of March, which is a dramatic, fictional, epistolary novel. It's not like a typical narrative novel at all.
It's all about Julius Caesar and the period of time leading up to his assassination. And it's a series of letters between Caesar and, the many people in his acquaintance, as well as the people who are planning his assassination and their acquaintance.
The Queen of Egypt is approaching. Missy Crocodile is being fanned across the straits. My correspondence with Majesty has been as spirited as could be expected.
So I enjoyed The Matchmaker. Of course, it made a perfect book for a musical because it is in Western time.
So The Matchmaker is a farce, but The Matchmaker is also an odd farce. It has these moments where the farce comes to a screeching halt, almost like a record player scratching. And we encountered a character who speaks to us in direct address and gives us this incredibly vulnerable and articulate synopsis of where they're at and how they got there and what they're grappling with and what it means to them. And then we just jump right back on the train and we're back in the farce. Wilder succeeds in using that structure to make his point about these small moments being the essence of the human experience.
Get your props, because we are going to form the vehicle that is going to take us on that long journey. All right, let's begin.
For the last 15 years, I've been noticing increasing disinterest in what we call Broadway, and I just felt that I had ceased to believe in what takes place in the proscenium march. I experimented in various ways of making the stage simpler and simpler, and then I found Mr. Quintero's theater and had so many admirable evenings in his theater that I decided to write for it.
We get to the end of his life, and he turns back to fiction to tell two remarkable novels. One is called The Eighth Day, which is going to win the National Book Award, which is his tribute to his country. It's an epic novel. And then he ends with my favorite novel, Theophilus North. He's not well. It takes him 1 year to write this novel, which is about Newport, Rhode Island. It's full of humor and fun and insight. And also it's a sermon about what's important.
Well, when we imagine him going to his desk every morning to work all morning, surely, for this immense output, I think another reason was that in his writing, he often in cipher put his daily life. He wrote about all around. A private journal.
I feel that Thornton Wilder was perhaps the last playwright who was allowed in the 20th century not to expose his autobiography.
I remember the moment I first laid eyes on him. I had arrived from California with Ruth Gordon and Garson Kanin for a little holiday on Martha's Vineyard. And we flew from Los Angeles to Boston, where we were met by Thornton, and he arrived in a beautiful white suit and a hat. And I remember him just bounding toward us at the airport, and I thought, what an astonishing looking fellow, that first. And then after he had hugged me, I was his.
My uncle was a traveling man, and he devoted his life to observing people. I mean, he was a great entertainer. And in one of his letters to me, he says, you know, your uncle's unusual. He listens. He really was a great listener.
So he very much was an outsider to family life. There was no model where he could be anything else but an outsider and a witness.
He was a very lonely man, but it suited him. He worked it out. He worked out a remarkable life.
Thornton was such a broad and generous soul. It just speaks to another time when people drew from all sources to become the person that they are. And he drew heavily and deeply from these diverse sources in music and literature and theater and the human heart.
How many words did Shakespeare use?
The report is that there's a census of 25,000 words at Shakespeare's hand.
Very few people of today would use a vocabulary of 25,000 words, would they?
Oh, the average person goes through life with 4,500.
That gives you an idea.